Okay, we are live. Welcome, everyone. So I see we have a lot of people here with us. We have Ron from Washington. We have Juan from Lima, Peru. Wow. Hey, Juan, when I was in Lima, and the first time I ever had cow heart cooked a special way was in Lima, and it was so good. My wife still makes it for me. We also have Gary from Arizona. Welcome, Gary. Gary's one of my patrons. He's actually testing and giving a lot of good feedback on my course right now. We have Stefania. Welcome again, Stefania, a regular visitor. We have Tim. Tim was here last week. He's from Richmond, Virginia. He's oh no, I'm sorry. I mixed those up. Yeah, we have Tim from the Netherlands and Ronnie from Richmond, Virginia. Then we have Stuart. He's from Vancouver, Canada. All right, awesome. John, holy crap, John, 4 a.m., Sydney, Australia. Well, thank you for taking the time to join us. All right. And we have Leonids from Mexico. That's awesome. That's great, guys. Istanbul, Moscow. Welcome, guys. All right, let's get started. If this is your first time, let me just cover some of what we do here on this SwiftUI Views live series. So I'm going to have you guys pick some numbers, and these numbers are going to be used to randomly either select a UI or some other things. Don't enter a number right now. We'll cover that later. Then we're going to cover some of what's being taught. Today it's going to be colors and color schemes. And then we're going to use those numbers that you gave me and search for some random elements. I'm going to be asking you for 2 different numbers today. To add even some more randomity to this. And then I'm going to try to spend 20 minutes working on the UI. I usually go over. There's a lot to teach. I can really get detailed, and I love to explain things as I'm working. So there's that aspect to it too. So I try to keep it short, but I say 30 minutes, but it always goes to like 45, 55 minutes. Okay, and then I really want us to all just hang out, laugh, and have some fun. I know a lot of us are excited for WWDC coming Monday. I can't wait. All right, so let's just jump into this and not waste any more time. Let me just pull this up here. We have some more people. Dave, St. Louis, Missouri. It's awesome. All right. Okay, so we're talking about colors, and I'm going to give you guys sort of like first an overview on how I structure colors and color schemes. I've created so many UI over the last many years, and I've come up with all kinds of like tips and tricks for creating the perfect color scheme. And I don't think it can be done, but I think you can get pretty close. And I've come up with a pretty good system of trial and error, deleting and adding and removing and changing. And this is what I come up with for a color scheme, specifically for SwiftUI I'm talking about. Of course, you can use this for any platform and any technology, but I say SwiftUI because if you look at the names of these colors that I create here, these 5 colors, we have accent color, which is what the modifier is called when you're giving an accent color to interactive things you can interact with, like buttons. So that's accent color. Then we have a background color, which is what I use, in the back. By default, we have white and black for light mode and dark mode. Those are your default colors, but we can change them. So I use background color for that. And then foreground color, that's the color of like text. Or if you're using SF symbols, you can use foreground color to change those icons. And you use the foreground color modifier. So I call this foreground color for that. And then we have secondary and tertiary colors. Secondary meaning it's in addition to, it's the second color in addition to the rest of your color scheme. And tertiary meaning it's the third color in addition to your color scheme. And those are optional. Actually, all of these colors are optional, except for the accent color. To me, accent color is a must. Hello, Jean from Paris. And we also have Dave from I already said that, St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah, Dave got a double shout out. All right, so let's see. Now, there's another thing that I do too. When it comes to adding colors to views, I also, these are what's called named colors. We're in the asset catalog. we can add a color. You can right click and say add color set, and it creates what's called a named color. You can give it any name you want, and then you notice I have 2 colors on mine, and that's for light mode and dark mode. So you can come here and you say, I want it for any and dark. Pretty much any is light mode and dark's for dark mode. So that's why I have 2 colors there. Whoops. Oh, let's escape that. Delete that color. Now to reference these colors, you normally reference the string. You say color, and then you reference the string. That can lead to errors, and you have to remember colors. I don't like to remember things. So what I did is I created an extension. We don't need a canvas for that. I created an extension off of color. So when I use color, I could just say color dot, and I start typing in theme, and it shows all 5 of my colors. So that is why I have this extension set up, just to organize my colors so I don't have to remember, oh, I need to type in this word for this color or this word for this color. I don't want to do that. I want autocomplete to tell me what I can use. So I just start typing in color.theme. That's why I prefix all my colors with the same word. Okay, so that's how I set up colors in SwiftUI. Now, we're going to talk about coming up with colors in just a minute. So what I want you guys to do, to find a color, I want you to pick a number between 1 and 10. And we're going to use that number to find a color. Not a UI, but just to find our first color. And we're going to use that number to specifically find the accent color. Remember, to me, a lot of this is subjective, okay? To me, the accent color is essential. You want to pick a color that matches your brand or your client's logo, or to communicate a feeling. You know, if this app has a lot of energy, or if you want it to be calming, you can choose different colors to communicate that feeling. So to me, accent color is the essential one. Okay, so we're going to look at some numbers here. We have Tim. Tim says 9. He's the first one. Okay, great, guys. We're going to use that number to find a color. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I am actually going to go to Adobe Color. Let's go right here. If you do a search, you'll find the first one. It's just Adobe Color. And Adobe has a bunch of themes that you can use. So what you want to do is go to Explore. It's that second one right here. And these are kind of like their suggested themes of the day or something like that. But you go down here to View, and then you want to go to Color Themes and go to Most Popular. Okay, so there we have all of our most popular colors. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 9 over and try to find a good color from that, an accent color. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so this one's going to be challenging, right? Because these are very light colors. But this will be a good experience for you guys. And as I show you how I find colors and then how I tweak the colors just a little bit, okay? So we have a couple of choices here. I think for an accent color, I would go with the brightest ones. So we could either go with this pinkish color here or this greenish color right here. So let's try this. Let's go with the pinkish one first. I'm just going to click on copy it to my clipboard. So that is a start. That's a start for our color scheme here. And then I'm going to use this other site called ColorMind, colormind.io. And what this tool is, it generates color schemes based on existing images and color schemes and a lot of other things. It has an algorithm to figure out colors that go together. It's pretty involved. So here's what you can do. First of all, you might be asking yourself, well, why don't you just use Adobe Color to find your color scheme? There's a problem with existing color tools out there, and they don't consider light and dark mode. And I think they don't work well for mobile UI as well. Like Adobe Color, it's used for everything. It's used for design, photography, text on photographs, things like that. But when it comes to UI, I think they could use some improvement. Not just Adobe I'm talking about. I'm talking about pretty much a lot of the color tools out there. And so they don't consider light mode and dark mode. They don't give you 2 colors to say, this is going to be your light background. This is going to be your dark background. And this tint color or this accent color looks good on this light background, and it also looks good on this dark background. And then here are your secondary and tertiary colors. So they're lacking a little bit, right? And the closest tool I found that considers this or takes this into account is this tool ColorMind. So what you can do, just to give you a little tour here, you can lock a color. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock that middle color, and that's going to be my accent color. And then I'm going to paste in that pinkish color that I copied. Whoops. Oh, I copied the pound sign. So let's paste that in with the pound sign there. There we go. Now with that color in there and that's locked, it's going to use that color and it's going to try to find matching colors around that. So first of all, this is what I do. I don't use this tool directly. You can see other matching colors here. And the middle color, the one that's locked, always stays the same, right? So these are just ideas. Instead, what I do is I go into Website Colors up here on the tab, and I use this tool. Why do I use this tool? This one, the Website Colors, is more geared toward a UI, using a UI, okay? Hello, Raju from India. Team Spirit's here. He's late, but he made it. He said you said you'd come, and he did. Okay, good. Now, this is what I like about the Website Colors. You come down here, it shows you your colors, and I kind of have a system of how I use this website to find my color scheme. You notice over on the right-hand side here, or the left-hand side, it shows the light shades. That's going to be my light background. Dark shades, that's going to be my dark background. And then the middle color will be my accent, which we don't have set right now. So let's set that. Okay. And then let's generate. All right. Now you see the problem with the dark shade there. You're probably not going to use that for your dark background, right? that bright red. And part of the problem is because our accent color is too light. So usually what I do is I take an accent color and I want that accent color, that should be the thing that sticks out on your UI. That's the thing that makes it super obvious that when you look at the UI, you're like, these are things I can tap on. These are things I can interact with. If you look at Apple's apps, they usually they don't set a light background color and a dark background color. They usually just go with the default. But their accent color, really stands out. Really, makes it obvious that you can interact with it. So that's what I want to do here. I want to make this so it's pretty obvious that you can interact with it. So I'm going to brighten it up a little bit. If you go toward that upper right-hand corner, that's usually what brings out the color. I'm not going to go all the way over. I'm just going to bring it over just a little bit more. Okay, now that we have that set, let's generate again. And now you start to see the light and background colors make more sense, right? Hello, Mahul from India. Glad you could join us. Okay, now if you keep scrolling down, okay, so that's just the layout and how I use those colors. The light accent and the dark accent, those are my secondary and tertiary colors. But remember, those are optional. We don't have to use those. Okay, and if you come down here, this kind of like gives you somewhat of a preview of your color scheme and how it might look in a UI. It's the closest I can get. So this being our accent color, that shows up great against our dark background. And you can just see how the other colors show up. And then if you keep scrolling down, then you see sort of like light mode. So this is the light background color that's pulling from the first color that we have here. And again, you can see, the text changes here to, this is our accent color. That looks good on light mode. And you can also test how the secondary and tertiary colors look on there too. Now, it's not perfect. What I would love, if any of you are web developers and you feel like you need a project to take on, ColorMind has an API. That you can use to provide colors and, lock colors down and get the other 4 colors or, all that functionality. It has an API for that. If you guys want to create a website that has, 2 templates. Actually, here, let me show you something. Let's see. Let's go to Keynote. See if I have here. Yeah, color scheme tester. So this is what I use to test color schemes. Right here. This is this is a Keynote file, and you see I had the 5 colors going down the middle, right? And then I have these templates right here. These are just kind of like templates where you pick one and then you can add colors to it and see how it looks before you actually jump into the project. If you can make a web page that has these on here, or you can pick which template you want to use, and then it shows a light mode and a dark mode, and when you cycle through these colors, when I click generate and it cycles through colors, it could just apply those colors to the UI. That'd be awesome. Like it would take this last color, that would be the back for the dark mode. It would take the light color, that would be the back for the light mode. I used to be a web developer a long time ago, and I just don't have time for this, and I don't know if I can really figure it out since I've been in the mobile development arena for so long. So if you guys want to take that on, that'd be awesome. Definitely loop me in on that. I did message the website developer here that owns this website and asked if he could consider doing that, and I never heard back from him. Okay, so let's start using these colors inside of our Xcode project. Let's see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down here and close that. Okay, and I'm going to move this up here so I can see both. And then we're going to start applying our colors. So accent color, I have 2 colors, but you don't have to use 2 colors. You can just use 1. I have 2 colors there because then if I want to adjust it a little bit, I can do that. Okay, at this point, while I'm adding these colors to the asset catalog here, I want you guys to pick another number between 5 and 15 along with the industry. So you can say 10 health. So, and then we're going to use that to find a UI to apply these color schemes to. Remember, industries are like health, fitness, finance, to-do list, anything you want to do. Or just say productivity, business, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to apply the accent color first. And what you can do, you can actually select both at the same time. Click down here to show color panel. And your color panel has this eyedropper tool so you can select colors. So we'll select that, and boom, we have our 2 colors there. Background color remember, this is the light appearance, the one on the left. So what I'm going to do is just use my eyedropper tool and select that one. Doesn't change a little bit, but it did change. Like if we go to the floating point numbers, you see like these are normally 1. These are all 1. But when I selected the color, it changes on 0.9 something something. Dark mode, use the eyedropper tool, click that dark color. Now here's something that I do. It's kind of like a lazy way to test this or to set the foreground color. I usually swap around the background color with the foreground color. That's what Apple does. They swap around the black and the white, right? So your text is black in light mode, and then when you switch to dark mode, the text turns white. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab that dark mode color, hold down Option so you can duplicate it, and then drag it over onto the foreground color for light mode. And I'm going to do the same thing with the background color, hold down Option, and just set it like that. Now my secondary and tertiary colors, we might not use these, but I'll set them anyway, and if we decide to use them, then they're there for use. There is one small change I'm going to make. No, we'll wait. Never mind. We may or may not change these. I usually, let me tell you what I usually do here. For my colors, I usually go into the background color, the darker color here, and I usually darken that up a little bit. I try to get it into this corner over here, the lower left-hand corner. I think it looks okay right now. That might be dark enough, but we might tweak it. For the secondary and tertiary colors, I usually lighten those up a little bit because I don't want those to compete with my accent color. So I might take them and just kind of lighten them up just a little bit, still maintaining the color a little bit. This one, I'm not too crazy about it. I might go maybe just a lighter pinkish color, something like that. So there, we'll adjust those. This one could even be lightened up just a little bit more. Yeah. So the main thing is I don't want it to compete with the accent color. That's the main thing. So secondary color, let's click on both of those, use my eyedropper, and I'll set this tan color. Geez, that Oh, you know, I was saying it looks darker. It's because I clicked in the shadow area there. Let's go down here and click that. There we go. Line it up a little bit. And for the tertiary color, let's set that. There. So we have that color there. There's our color scheme. And that's my quick and dirty way to set up a color scheme. Now we have to test it because even though these colors might look good all next to each other, as soon as you get them on a UI, you're going to be like, whoa, I can't believe those colors don't actually match. And you're going to have to tweak them a little bit. So that's our next step. Okay. Let's see what we have here. So Manish. Okay, good. He says 9 sports entertainment. Okay, so we'll go with sports. And let's see. Let's get our web page up. And what we're going to do is we're going to just do a Google search for, I'm going to start with mobile UI. And then I'm going to say sports. Go to images. And we have a bunch of images here. And then we're going to go 9 down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, we're going to come to this one right here. And let's take a look here. There's a lot going on in this screen. Okay. All right, here's what I'm going to do. Now, remember, I'm not creating a functional app here, okay? I'm going to lay it out the best I can. I'm going to create a mock-up. And so with that, we might not include all of these details because we just don't have time, right? It's already been 20 minutes. I'm going to spend another 20 minutes trying to build as much as I can of this out using the colors that we have. Hold on one second. Jackie, can I get some water, please? Ask my wife for some water. I usually bring water with me, but I forgot today. All right, so this is what we're going to use. Let's zoom this in a little bit. And I'm going to scoot this over. We'll keep it right about there, just so we can see it. Whoops. Okay. All right, so I have a view already set up here. And the first thing I want to do, we're going to use a background color, right? Oh, thank you so much. We want to use a background color. Now, in order to do that, you need a Z stack to put it on the back. So we're going to click here. Yeah, command, click, and for some reason, it's not giving me the options. It usually gives me an option to embed. So we're just going to have to do it manually here. Okay, Z stack. The manual labor of typing. So hard. Okay, now these colors, remember I created a color extension to access them. So I can just say color.theme, and then I have my 5 colors there. And I want background. Now, when I use background here, we need our canvas up. Let's resume that. What do I have? iPhone SE, that's fine. You're probably not going to notice much of a difference. That background color is pretty close to white. But if we go to dark mode, then you're going to see it come out. So let's go to dark. Yeah, now you can see the color more. You notice there's that gap up at top. That's the safe area. We want to ignore the safe area here. So we're going to say edges, ignoring safe area. We're going to say all. There we go. So now we have our background color. Now looking at this UI, see, this is a problem that I notice a lot of designers make. And it's not really their fault because they're thinking of Android and iOS. iOS has a human interface guidelines, and it talks about the tint color or our accent color, which is used only for things you can interact with. But you notice here, their background for their header is very similar to the buttons at the top, right? So we're going to have to use a different color for that header part, maybe like a secondary or tertiary color. So we'll try that. Now, in order to do that, we'll create a V stack. There we go. Now the embed options come up. So we'll embed it in a V stack, and let's work on that header. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to create like a rectangle to stick it up there. So we'll start with the rectangle object. And rectangles are push-out views. It's going to fill up the whole view. We need to give it a height. So you can also, let's see, is it working? Yeah, it is. You can hold down Control Option, click on the rectangle, and it brings up your padding and frame options. If you have other modifiers on there, it'll bring up those modifiers as well. Oh, yeah, good point, Stuart. You told me that like 2 weeks ago. So the reason why these options don't come up, like when I was holding down Command and I click on a view, the options don't come up because the canvas wasn't up. And Stuart pointed that out to me a couple of weeks ago, and I already forgot. So let's see, Command Option. Let's give this thing a height, and we'll say it's 120. Start with that. All right. We didn't give it a width, so let's delete that. Okay. So there's our top part there. Now we need to push that up to the top. So let's add a spacer. Goes up to the top. It doesn't quite go all the way up, so we're going to have that frame ignore the safe area. And we'll just say top. Have it ignore the top. And then it goes all the way up. Now we want to give this shape a color. So let's use our fill, and we're going to use color dot theme. And we can we'll try secondary first, then we'll try the tertiary. So there's our secondary color. We'll stick with that for now. And if we want, we can give it an overlay so it says home on there. So I'm going to add an overlay to it. And inside of here, we'll say text. And we'll say home. And it looks like that home is maybe bold. We can make it a little bit bigger. It doesn't, what I'm mocking up doesn't have to look exactly like the UI. I want to kind of get the essence of it to show you guys the color. So we'll go to text. We'll make that a little bit larger. We'll say title, and we'll make it bold. Okay, there we go. Now we have this menu across the top, and we can achieve something like that by, using some capsule shapes. So let's add that next. And, here's what I'm going to do. We want that, if we change the height of that rectangle, we want those capsules to move with it because, that menu to move with it. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to add that menu as an overlay to my rectangle, and then I'm going to offset it down a little bit. And then it will stick with my rectangle. So let's add another overlay here. And in my overlay, I'm going to add a capsule. All right. And we need to adjust the height of that capsule. So I'm going to, when I add modifiers, sometimes I like to put these things on a different line so the indenting looks better. Okay, so for height, let's say 50. There we go. And we probably want to put some padding on the sides to kind of like so it doesn't extend all the way out. So let's go back in there and let's add some padding on the sides here. And let's give it an amount like 20, maybe 40. There we go. And then we want to offset this too, right? So I'm going to come down here. We're still in the capsule, and I'm going to add an offset. It's only going to move on the Y coordinate there. We don't need it to move right or left. So for Y, let's see. This is 50. Let's try 50. Moving it down 50. That's too much. Try 40. That looks right. Okay. Now you notice the home is really close to it, right? So we'll have to add some padding to home, or we can also add some. We can also add offset to it too. I think a padding will work. Actually, if I just click on text again, pull up padding. Let's try adding some padding to the bottom. Yeah, that moves it up a little bit. Let's try 20. That'll work. Okay. All right, so we had the first part. Now, the background to that shape, that's white right now, the capsule. And it's white because shapes use the primary color, and we're in dark mode, and the primary color in dark mode is white. So we want to maybe use one of our colors for it. Maybe we can use the tertiary color. So let's try that. Actually, we need to add it as the first modifier here, or else it won't work. The fill only applies to shapes, and once you run the padding modifier, it returns a view, so you can't use fill on a view. You can only use fill on a shape. And let's try our tertiary color theme. Tertiary. Yeah, I kind of don't like that. Let's leave that alone for now, actually. Let's leave it as white. Let's leave it as the primary color. It might work. But for now, let's add another overlay to that capsule, which is going to be our button for our menu. So on the capsule, I'm going to add an overlay on that. That's just going to be another capsule. And okay, this is what you have to do. So notice I'm adding the overlay after the offset. I want to add it before the offset so it moves both of them down. And let's see. I'm going to hold down Command Option and use my bracket keys to move it up. There. Now that shape is covering up our existing capsule. So let's do this. Let's indent this again. We're going to add some padding. Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm going to give it a width instead. I'm not going to use padding. I'm going to give it a fixed width. We'll just say it's not high. We want the width to be 100. No, oops, wrong one. Oh my gosh. The width is 100. Just looking at the wrong capsule. Okay, now it's right in the middle. And let's give it some colors so we can actually see what it says here. And we want to use our accent color, actually. Not our background. Okay. There we go. And then we want to push that over so it fits over on the left-hand side of the capsule. Now, how do you do this? There's a couple of different ways. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a flexible frame to make that capsule, the one that's orange or reddish there. I'm going to extend the frame out so it fills up our whole shape. And then I'm going to give it alignment so it goes over to the left or the leading. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's go down here. When I say flexible frame, I'm talking about the frame that has these parameters with min width, max width, min height, and things like that. This is the flexible frame right here. That's what Apple calls it. And then I'm going to give it a max width. And I'm going to say infinity. And now you see that it's like it's pushed all the way over, right? I don't know how good the resolution is here. It has a blue border around there that pushed it out. And then the frame here also has an alignment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set an alignment, but I'm going to make it leading. And it's going to push it all the way over to the leading side. Now it goes outside of my other capsule. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to give it the same padding as its parent. So let me do that. Yeah, right there. Oh, okay. No, this is the wrong one. Let me just take a look here. That's a rectangle. We have the capsule. Oh, it's right here. I need to use that padding. There we go. Now it stays right within the parent. And then we can give it some, we can give it an overlay for some text to go with it. Why not use a picker? That's a good question, Manish. I could have used a picker to match the, because that's normally iOS to match the human interface guidelines. So it's like a segmented control, the picker. I could have used that, yeah. But I kind of want to just match like this UI as close as I can to demonstrate the colors. Yeah, so this isn't going to be an operational UI. It's just going to be demonstrated to show the colors, really, is what we're looking at here. Okay. All right. So we have that top part done. And then down below, let's start filling out the rest of it. We have these cards, right? And what I'm going to use, I'm going to use some rectangles here to fill out those. And let's see, we can put it uh, between the header part and down here. So I'm going to create a rounded rectangle. And we'll say corner radius 20. And you notice that it's a push out view. It's going to fill up everything here. And what I'm going to do is, well, let's do this. Let's add a couple of them. And because we have these, we're not going to need the spacer. We're not going to need that text. Yeah, let's add one more. There we go. So we have some cards there that's similar to our UI, right? And then we want to give those some color too. The first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to add some spacing between all of these elements. I'm going to do that off the V stack that they're all contained in. That's the parent. And let's see, let's give it like 20. We'll see how that works. Yeah, that looks good. And I think I want some padding on the side here. Now, what I'm going to do, if I add padding to the V stack, it's going to affect the header up top, right? Where it says home and it has that menu. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to group all these rectangles and add padding just to the group. So let's do that. Let's hold down Command. We'll say group to embed those. I'm going to highlight these and move those up inside the group. And then I'm going to add padding to that group. And specifically, we want horizontal padding. And I think the default will be fine. I don't think we need to give it an amount. There we go. So now it comes to time to like apply our colors. And we want to either use the primary or secondary color. I mean, not the primary or secondary. We want to use the secondary or tertiary color for these. Or you have another option too. Another great color choice is the color.secondary. It's not part of our color scheme, but it works great in a lot of cases. And let me just show you how that works here. Now, normally you use fill to give shapes a color, right? But if they're all in a group and you only want to apply it one time, apply that modifier one time, use a foreground modifier, foreground color modifier. And then we're going to use color.secondary on these guys. There. So the reason why I like color secondary is it'll change. It's a little bit see-through, so if you have things in the background, you can see through them. And it'll change for light mode and dark mode. So you see when I go into light mode, they're gray. And when I go into light mode or dark mode, they turn darker gray or lighter gray. So it's kind of like they get darker or lighter depending on what mode you're in. And yeah, I think what I'm going to have to do, if I use the color secondary, then I'd give it some opacity to lessen the opacity and make it more transparent, just so you can see things behind it. So let's do this. Let's try our theme colors first. I feel like we need to at least give them a shot. If we use the secondary here, so it matches the top, and that looks fine. I think I'd probably give it like a little bit of transparency though, just to lighten it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is apply opacity and say 0.5. Yeah. And I'd probably do something like that, maybe a little bit more. And then when we look at light mode, let's see how that looks. You see how it kind of like blends in more? Doesn't really take your attention away from the other controls or the accent color or the things that are that you can interact with. So if we give these some content, we have about 4 more minutes left. Let's try to add a little bit of content here. Let's add some text, and maybe we add a button to these views as well. So let's do this. Let's add an overlay. And for my overlay, I'm going to add a VStack. And then inside of here, I'm going to add a button to the bottom. Let's see here. Sort of like you see how it says upcoming in my contest and has an arrow. Let's add something like that. So I'm going to add a spacer, and then I'm going to add an H stack. And then here I'm going to add a button. There'll be no action right now. And let's just hit enter. Oops. Yeah. Okay, and then it's going to say, we'll say upcoming, just like we have here. Text. Upcoming. Okay, there's our button. Hard to see, it is down there though. Let's give it, I'm going to add some padding to the bottom of the V stack there. Yeah, it comes up a little bit. And let's make that text bold. It looks like it's bold there. So I'm just going to come here, go to the weight, go to bold. And then it's hard to see, you guys. I know it's hard to see right now. So what I'm going to do is I want to add accent color to that. What I can do is I can just go to the parent and set the accent color there. Then anything that's a button or anything you can interact with will automatically change to our accent color. So here I'm going to say there's an actual modifier called accent color. I think you can see why I named these colors the way I do. So here we want dot theme accent. And it did not change our button. I'm not quite sure why. Oh, I know why. Because I'm overriding it with a foreground color. So see, this is why I don't like to use foreground color for shapes. I like to use fill because it can override colors like this. So for example, if I comment out that foreground color, you'll notice it uses the accent color here, right? So what can we do here? We can either move the foreground color to the shape itself, or we could just apply the accent color to the button itself. I think what I'll do for now is I'll leave the foreground color, the secondary color set, and I'm just going to move the accent color up to the button. So the button overrides the secondary color. Wow, that foreground color is pretty strong. It doesn't even, I've noticed this before. The foreground colors seem to override accent colors. I don't think it's right. I should probably submit a bug for it. I think the accent color should override the foreground color where necessary. But I think someone in my Slack group in Utah, they investigated it and they actually saw, they went into the button and how the accent color gets set, and they set the accent color with the foreground color modifier. So if we want to use this, we'll just have to say foreground color. All right. There we go. I think I want to make this a little bit bigger too, just so you guys can see it. I know it's kind of small right now. So let's change it to title. Okay, now we want to add that arrow to it. So let's finish this off by adding our arrow. I'm going to use a spacer. And then we want to use an SF symbol, right? We could probably find an arrow for that. So I want to use an image. Specifically, I want to use the image that has the system name parameter, like that. And let's see, we could probably guess this might be like arrow right. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I want the same font and font weight applied to my arrow, but you guys can't see it right now. So I'm going to grab these modifiers, the font weight, and the foreground color. I'm going to apply it to the H stack. So I'm going to move those down. And it will get applied. No, you know what? You can't apply font weight to a view, but there's a way around it. I'm going to show you guys. So we want bold, right? So what I'm going to do is, here's what we're going to do. So where it says font, I'm going to say font dot system, and we want the text style right here. And here we can set the large title. And then off of that, you can say weight. And from here, you can say bold. So you can apply the weight directly to a font and then put that inside of the font modifier, and then it will work. Okay, on this, we probably want padding on the side too. So you notice we have padding just on the bottom. You can group these up. You can create an array of the edges of where you want this padding. And I'll just show you the easy way to do it. You can hold down Control Option, click on H stack. Yeah, that's right, Henry. When in doubt, always use foreground. All right. And then you see these checkboxes down here? I'm just going to click on those, and you can see it creates an array down here of padding. Okay, so that's as far as I got in 22 minutes. We can keep working on this and keep adding more and more and more to it, but I don't want to keep taking up you guys' time. What I will do, though, is I will continue working on this outside of the live stream. And what I do is I put these projects up on my website. So there's probably a link in the description that shows you where you can go to the previous episodes and get the projects for the previous episodes and the slides. And you can go there and get it. So I'll work on this today. I'll add some more touches to it to kind of like clean it up a little bit. Now there is one thing here that I just noticed. You notice the buttons here, the upcoming and the arrow, they are kind of they're kind of washed out, and that's because the opacity is being applied to them down here. So what you'll have to do, what I can do, is move them up onto the rounded rectangle itself. And see, the way it's set up, we'd have to add it before the overlay. So rounded rectangle, add the opacity, and then add the overlay. So it's got to be the second modifier or the first modifier. Then that way, it shows up better. It looks a lot better. All right, questions. Team Spirit, how do you integrate tab bar into SwiftUI? Well, that's a different modifier. If you want, or it's a different view actually altogether. If you want, it's kind of like the outside the scope of this. We could do it. But check out my free book. There's a link to it. There's a free book that you can download, and then there's a tab bar. If you go into the control views chapter, then you can see the tab bar. Basically, what I would do here is I would come to probably like the Z stack or maybe the V stack, and I would surround this and then change it to the tab view right there. And then it'll give us a tab bar down at the bottom. There's no buttons in it. But then what you have to do next is you have to add other modifiers to add your buttons. Okay. Hey, Bob from Berlin. Yeah, I know. That one took me a while to figure out, man. I had to get around that constraint there for the fonts. Okay, so I hope that answered your question, Team Spirit, or at least gives you a direction to go and follow up on to add the tab bar to the bottom. Maybe what I'll do is I'll add that to the project afterward. Okay, so if nobody has any other questions, I'm going to wait a little bit because I know there's like a 20 to 30 second delay in the questions coming in. But I hope this helped you out. I hope this gave you some ideas on how you can create your own color scheme. Hey, Paul from Toronto. I'm glad you like my books, man. I hope this gave you an idea of how to create a color scheme. Start with the accent first. You know, if you don't know what else to do, then don't do anything. Just use an accent color and just use the black and white that Apple gives you. It'll handle all the colors for your text. It'll handle all the colors for your background. But start with your accent color first, and then move on to your background color. Play around with that and see how that looks against your accent color. And then if you want to explore more, then use the foreground color, secondary and tertiary. So what you could have done, like we talked about here, you could have just stayed with the secondary color for those backgrounds. That'll work too. Like, let's see, if we come here. Apple, they give us the secondary color to make it easy for us. The thing about the secondary color too is you can keep layering it on top of each other. It looks worse here because we're applying opacity. You can keep layering those secondary colors, and they'll keep changing. In light mode, they'll get darker and darker as you layer them. In light mode, they get lighter and lighter, and it changes it for you automatically. Okay. There we go. Am I into neomorphic design? I think it's pretty cool, neomorphic design. I do cover that in my book, with some examples under the shadow modifier, I believe, and I think it does really have a cool effect, but I haven't really seen anything that, I haven't seen any production apps that use it. So I don't know if I'm using an app that's just neomorphic design. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. I like the way it looks, but in terms of using it in actual UI, I'm not sure. Uh, Hello, Sunil. All right, guys, that's it for this uh, live episode. Of course, it's gone over again, like it always does. I shouldn't try to limit it to 30 minutes. I think that's a little unrealistic. Uh, so I'm going to maybe just say it's going to be up to an hour long. Okay, so that's it. I'm signing off. Thank you guys again for joining. If you are interested in shapes, we're going to cover a wave shape tomorrow and how to use that in SwiftUI in tomorrow's live episode. So you're welcome to join that as well. That's at noon. All right, see you guys.